Space is a vacuum. Sound cannot travel through it. By every law of physics we know, the universe should be perfectly, absolutely silent. And yet, for the last 60 years, our machines have kept coming back from the dark carrying recordings. Real ones, not sound effects, not music, actual signals, pulled out of the emptiness and shifted down into a range your ears can finally hear. Some of them are beautiful, some of them should not exist. And one of them, a single note coming from a black hole 250 million light years away, has been sounding since before anything on Earth crawled out of the ocean. It has never stopped. Here's the question that should keep you awake tonight. If the deadest, emptiest, most silent places in the universe are making noise, what exactly have we not been hearing? Let's be clear about what these sounds actually are, because the truth is stranger than any ghost story. You were taught that space is silent, and in one narrow sense, that's true. Sound, the way you know it, needs air, molecules bumping into each other, passing a vibration along. Out there, between the stars, there aren't enough molecules to carry a whisper. But space is not empty. It is flooded with something else. Plasma, charged particles, magnetic fields stretched across millions of kilometers, radio waves. Pressure ripples moving through clouds of gas so vast that a single wave can take 10 million years to rise and fall. All of that oscillates. All of that carries energy in waves. And a wave is a wave. Our spacecraft record those oscillations, and scientists shift the frequencies up or down until they land inside the tiny window your ears can detect. So when you hear these recordings, understand this. You are not hearing a dramatization. You are hearing real, measured data from real places. The universe was making these sounds long before we arrived to listen. We just finally built the ears. And the first thing those ears heard was something screaming right here, at home. Start with the planet under your feet. You think of Earth as quiet, a blue, peaceful marble. But Earth is loud, deafeningly loud, in a language your body was never built to hear. Wrapped around our planet are the Van Allen belts, enormous rings of radiation held in place by Earth's magnetic field. And inside them, the plasma is always moving, crackling with waves. When the Van Allen probes recorded those waves and translated them into sound, what came back was a wall of hiss and static, like a radio tune between stations, if that radio were the size of a planet. Some of these are called whistlers. A single lightning strike on the surface can send a wave spiraling up along a magnetic field line out into space and back, dropping in pitch as it travels, a long falling whistle sliding down into the dark. Sit with that for a second. Every storm on Earth is broadcasting into space. Our planet has been making this eerie, hissing song for 4.5 billion years. We only heard it for the first time a few decades ago. And that's the gentle one. Because Earth makes a second sound, a beautiful one, and the beauty is exactly the problem. It's called chorus. And the first time you hear it, you won't believe it came from space. It sounds like birds, like a forest at dawn, thousands of tiny rising chirps, layered over each other, bright and melodic and almost peaceful. Some scientists say it sounds like whale song. It is, without exaggeration, one of the most beautiful sounds ever recorded anywhere in the cosmos. Now here is what it actually is. Chorus waves are bursts of energy rippling through the radiation belts. And as they move, they grab hold of electrons and whip them forward, faster and faster, until those particles are traveling at nearly the speed of light. Scientists have a name for what this pretty little bird song creates. They call them killer electrons. They are not being dramatic. These electrons punch straight through spacecraft shielding. They fry satellites. They degrade the systems that run your phone, your maps, your weather forecast. And an astronaut caught in the wrong place at the wrong time, unshielded, would absorb a dose from these particles that no human body is built to survive. Let that reframe everything. The single most beautiful sound in near-Earth space is the sound of a natural particle accelerator building a weapon. Out here, beauty is not the opposite of danger. Very often, it is the warning label. Now, leave Earth behind. Because it only gets stranger from here. Fly outward, past the moon, past Mars, past the asteroids, until a pale gold planet wrapped in rings fills your view. Saturn. In 2004, the Cassini spacecraft arrived, and its instruments began picking up intense radio emissions pouring off the planet. Waves tied to Saturn's auroras. The same kind of light show we call the Northern Lights, but on a world 9 times wider than Earth. When those emissions were converted into sound, the result did not sound like a planet. It sounded like something alive, rising tones and falling tones tangled together. Whistles that climb and then collapse. Whines that swell out of nowhere and vanish. It is the sound you would imagine coming from behind a locked door in a nightmare. An eerie, shifting, electronic howl with no rhythm you can hold on to and no source you can see. There is no creature making it. There is no voice. It is just physics. Charged particles spiraling in a magnetic field, 1 billion kilometers from any human ear. And that is the unsettling part. Nothing out there is trying to sound frightening. It simply does. The universe doesn't perform for us. It just is what it is. And what it is happens to be terrifying. Think about how long that howl was pouring off Saturn before any living thing existed to describe it as frightening. Millions of years of that sound, in the dark, with no one to hear it. That was the normal state of the universe. We are the strange new thing, the brief accident that showed up and started listening. And Saturn is not even the loudest planet. The next one hits you like a wall. Jupiter, the largest planet in the solar system, so big that every other planet could fit inside it with room to spare. And around it, invisible, is the largest structure in the solar system that isn't the sun itself, Jupiter's magnetosphere, where that magnetic field meets the solar wind, the constant million-kilometer-an-hour stream of particles blasting off the sun. The two collide and form something called a bow shock. It is a standing shock wave, like the wake in front of a ship, except this wake is bigger than the sun. In 2016, NASA's Juno spacecraft flew straight through it, and its instruments recorded the crossing. Listen to it, and you hear the whole thing happen in real time. First, a high, tense, rising whistle, Juno pushing through the turbulent boundary. And then, suddenly, a deep, heavy boom dropping into a low roar as the spacecraft punches out of the solar wind and into Jupiter's domain. That boom is the sound of a wall, a planet-sized barrier of shock plasma, marking the edge of a magnetic empire so large it would swallow the Earth and the moon whole and never notice. You could lose our entire world inside that single sound. Now keep going, past Jupiter, past Saturn, past the last planet, past the last comet, out to where the sun's reach finally runs out and into the dark that comes after. Because something is still transmitting from out there, and it is the loneliest sound ever recorded. In 1977, we launched a machine called Voyager 1. It flew past Jupiter, past Saturn, and then it just kept going, out toward the edge of everything the sun touches. In 2012, it crossed a boundary called the heliopause, the invisible shoreline where the sun's wind finally dies away and true interstellar space begins. Voyager 1 became the first thing human hands ever built to leave the solar system. Right now, as you listen to this, it is more than 24 billion kilometers away. It is the most distant object our species has ever created. And it is still listening. In 2021, scientists announced that Voyager's instruments had picked up something in that emptiness. Not a burst. Not an event, a hum. A faint, steady, monotone drone, the sound of the thin plasma of interstellar space itself, humming in the dark. It does not rise. It does not fall. It just goes on and on and on. This is the sound of the void between the stars, not silence, a low, endless tone in a place so empty that even at Voyager's speed, the nearest star is tens of thousands of years away. A tiny, dying machine, alone in the black, whispering that hum back to a world it left half a century ago. It is unbearably lonely, and yet it is not the end of this descent, because out there, far beyond Voyager, something is holding a single note. It is louder than a planet, older than the Earth, and it has never once stopped. Everything you have heard so far has had a source you could picture. A planet, a magnetic field, a storm, a spacecraft crossing a boundary. But every one of those sounds is young. Earth's whistlers, Saturn's howl, Jupiter's boom, Voyager's hum, all of it belongs to our little corner of space, and all of it began, in cosmic terms, yesterday. What comes next did not begin yesterday. It began before there were animals on land, before there were plants, before there was anything on Earth more complicated than a smear of cells in the water. It has been sounding continuously, without a single pause, ever since. And it will still be sounding long after the sun has died and taken the Earth with it. It is the deepest note in the known universe. And it is coming out of a black hole. 250 million light years from here, there is a cluster of galaxies called Perseus. And at its center sits a supermassive black hole, surrounded by a vast cloud of hot gas, hundreds of thousands of light years across. In 2003, astronomers using the Chandra X-ray telescope noticed something in that gas. Ripples, enormous, regular pressure waves, spreading outward from the black hole through the entire cluster. Sound waves. Real ones. The actual physical vibration of matter, the exact same phenomenon as sound moving through air, just on a scale that breaks the mind. They measured the pitch. It is a B flat, a single specific musical note, but it is a B flat 57 octaves below the middle C on a piano. That is not a figure of speech. Each one of these sound waves takes about 10 million years to pass. 10 million years for a single vibration, where the note you would strike on a piano vibrates hundreds of times every second. It is the lowest sound ever detected anywhere in existence, more than 1,000,000 billion times deeper than any note a human being could ever hear. To make it audible at all, NASA had to raise it by 57, even 58 octaves, scaling it up by more than 100 quadrillion times. And when they did, what came out of that black hole was a low, grinding, moaning wail. Something ancient and vast and slow, dragging itself through the dark. And here is the part that should stop you cold. That black hole has been holding this note, the same B flat over and over, for around 2.5 billion years. Sit with that number because it is almost impossible to hold in your head. 2.5 billion years ago, there was nothing on Earth that could hear anything at all. No people, no animals, no trees, just single cells, drifting in an ocean, under a sky that had barely learned how to hold oxygen. And already, that black hole was sounding this note. Every human who has ever lived, every war, every empire, every language, every love, every idea you have ever had, all of it fits into the last thin sliver of the time that note has been playing. It was already ancient when the first dinosaurs appeared. It kept sounding while they lived and while they died. It did not pause for them. It does not know that we are here, and it will not stop when we are gone. When the sun swells and swallows the earth, that note will still be sounding. When the last star in our galaxy burns out, it may still be sounding. The black hole in Perseus is not singing to anyone. It is just the universe doing what it does. and the fact that, for one brief moment, something small and warm on a blue planet built a machine, pointed it at the dark, and finally heard the note changes nothing about it at all. The song does not know we listened. It never will. We used to think space was silent, and in a strange way, that was the comforting version of the truth. A silent universe is empty, neutral. It leaves room for us to imagine that we matter, that if the cosmos ever had something to say, it might one day say it to us. But the universe was never silent. It was always making sound. Earth hisses, the planets howl, the void between the stars hums a note that never ends. And in the deep dark, a black hole has been holding a single grinding chord since before life crawled out of the sea. All of it, all of that sound, pouring out across billions of years, and not one note of it was ever meant for you. That is the real terror of the sounds of space. Not that they are frightening to hear, but that they were happening the entire time, whether or not anyone was ever born to listen. The universe has been singing since long before we existed, and it will go on singing long after we are gone. We are not the audience. We just happen, for a single heartbeat, to be in the room. So the next time someone tells you that space is silent, remember Perseus. Remember the note that has been sounding for 2.5 billion years and is sounding right now, in this exact moment, as you breathe. The void was never quiet. It simply was never singing for you. This is the cold void. The dark is patient. Stay a while.